The heart of America's government has gone silent. Offices closed, paychecks frozen, and deadlines abandoned, all because of one word that haunts Washington every few years: shutdown. But this time, something deeper is at stake. It's not just about budgets. It's about power. Who really controls America's money, Congress or the president? As the shutdown drags on, lawmakers fear they're losing more than just political ground. They fear they're losing authority, the constitutional right to decide how the nation spends its money. And while the Capitol remains paralyzed, the White House grows louder. Every year, Congress must approve a spending plan, the blueprint that funds everything from the military to national parks. But when Congress can't agree, when politics overshadows responsibility, the government runs out of authorization to spend. That's when the shutdown begins. Essential services like the military, air traffic control, and Social Security continue under emergency measures. But hundreds of thousands of federal employees are told not to come to work. National parks close. Food inspections slow down. Housing and education programs freeze. The world's largest democracy grinds to a halt, not because it can't pay its bills, but because its leaders can't agree how to pay them. And while the public grows frustrated, something else is happening behind the scenes: a slow, quiet shift in the balance of power inside Washington. The U.S. Constitution is crystal clear: Congress, and Congress alone, controls the nation's spending. It's called the power of the purse. The Founding Fathers designed it as a safeguard against tyranny. They wanted to make sure no president could fund wars, programs, or projects without the people's representatives approving it first. But in 2025, that principle is being tested like never before. With Congress locked in partisan gridlock, the president's office has found new ways to keep the machine running through executive orders, emergency declarations, and reallocated funds. Supporters say it's leadership in a time of crisis. Critics call it a constitutional shortcut. This latest shutdown isn't just about numbers. It's about control. As the budget impasse deepens, the president has begun directing funds from alternate sources, emergency reserves, discretionary defense budgets, even executive relief programs. For some lawmakers, that's crossing a red line. Representative Alicia Navarro said bluntly, "If Congress loses the power of the purse, then we lose democracy itself." Meanwhile, White House officials insist that the president is merely stepping in where Congress has failed. "We're not stealing power," one senior aide said. "We're preventing paralysis." To many Americans, it sounds like a reasonable compromise: keep the government running, whatever it takes. But to constitutional scholars, it sounds like the first domino in a dangerous chain reaction. This isn't the first time a president has expanded executive authority during a crisis. Franklin D. Roosevelt did it during the Great Depression. George W. Bush after September 11th. Barack Obama on immigration reform. Donald Trump on border security. Each time, the justification was different, but the pattern was the same. When Congress stalled, the president acted. Now, under the pressure of another shutdown, history may be repeating itself. Only this time, the scale is far larger, because the president isn't fighting a war or responding to an attack. He's fighting Congress itself. And every move he makes sets a precedent for the next president to follow, no matter who sits in the Oval Office. Outside Washington, Americans are divided. Some say the president is showing strength, finally cutting through the endless political deadlock. Others see a power grab, a dangerous sign that executive authority is swallowing democracy. At a diner in Ohio, one government worker told reporters, "I just want to go back to work. I don't care who fixes it, just fix it." But a retired judge in Virginia warned, if we let presidents spend money without Congress, then we've already changed the Constitution without a vote. This tension isn't just political, it's philosophical. What is democracy worth if efficiency replaces oversight? Inside the marble halls of Congress, the shutdown has become more than a budget issue. It's a battlefield of ideology. Democrats accuse Republicans of obstruction. Republicans accuse Democrats of reckless spending. Both sides blame each other. And while they argue, the clock keeps ticking and the government remains frozen. But beneath the partisan noise, a deeper concern grows. Are lawmakers surrendering their most sacred constitutional power, the power of the purse, to the executive branch? In private meetings, some senior members of both parties admit it. They fear Congress is becoming irrelevant, a stage for political theater, while real decisions move to the Oval Office. Oh, how exactly does a president gain power during a shutdown? The answer lies in loopholes, legal gray areas that allow the executive branch to redirect existing funds during emergencies or delays. For example, the president can declare certain functions essential and keep them funded. He can reassign unspent money from defense or disaster relief budgets. He can even invoke national emergency statutes, giving temporary authority to spend without Congress. Supporters argue that these tools keep the country running. Critics call it financial improvisation, turning temporary necessity into permanent precedent. As one constitutional scholar put it, the danger isn't one shutdown. The danger is normalizing government by executive decree. In the age of social media, every shutdown becomes a performance. The president takes to the cameras, projecting calm leadership. Lawmakers rush to cable news studios to defend their side. And the public, scrolling through endless soundbites, tries to figure out who's actually telling the truth. Networks flash dramatic headlines. President takes control amid chaos. Congress fails again. America held hostage by partisan politics. But what gets lost in the noise is the long-term consequence. Each headline, each action, each executive workaround chips away at the slow, deliberate process the Constitution was built on. Speed may win the moment, but over time, speed kills oversight. Every move in the shutdown is a calculated political play. For the president, it's a chance to look decisive, a leader who acts when Congress hesitates. For lawmakers, it's a chance to frame him as overreaching, a president stretching the Constitution for political gain. Polls show the public is divided. About half say they admire the president's willingness to act. The other half worries he's setting a dangerous precedent. And both parties are already eyeing how this drama will shape the next election. Behind the scenes, strategists from both camps know this isn't just about the shutdown. It's about redefining the balance of power for years to come. With Congress deadlocked and the president pushing boundaries, the third branch of government, the judiciary, steps in. Lawsuits are already being filed, challenging the president's emergency spending actions. Legal experts argue over one key question: when does executive necessity become constitutional violation? Some courts may rule in favor of the president, citing urgency and national interest. Others could strike back, insisting Congress must approve every dollar spent. The outcome may take months, even years. But the precedent set here could define how much financial power future presidents inherit. One former Supreme Court clerk warned, if the courts don't draw the line will disappear. History has seen this pattern before. When crises hit, presidents act, sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of ambition. Congress debates. The courts review. And decades later, historians decide who is right. Abraham Lincoln suspended constitutional rights during wartime and later defended it as a survival of the nation. Franklin D. Roosevelt expanded government power to end the Great Depression. Richard Nixon tested the limits of presidential secrecy and lost. Each of these moments shifted the balance of power just a little more toward the Oval Office. Now, in the 21st century, the pattern continues not through war or depression, but through political dysfunction. America's system isn't collapsing, it's evolving. The only question is, evolving into what? After weeks of frozen government, exhausted workers return to their desks. The shutdown is technically over, but Washington's wounds run deep. Lawmakers claim victory, the president claims leadership, and the public? They're simply relieved. But as the lights flicker back on across America's offices, a quieter realization spreads. The shutdown may have ended, yet something fundamental has changed. For the first time in modern history, the executive branch functioned almost independently, reallocating funds, prioritizing departments, and redefining the limits of necessity. And once a limit is tested, it rarely returns to its old boundary. Political scientists call it the ratchet effect. In times of crisis, government powers expand. When the crisis ends, they rarely shrink back. What began as a one-time fix during a shutdown could quietly become a template for future presidents. Already, new legislation is being drafted to clarify executive authority during fiscal emergencies. But critics warn clarification can become codification. By defining a president's emergency powers, Congress might be legalizing its own irrelevance. And so the tug-of-war over money has become a tug-of-war over democracy itself. Across academia and the media, experts are raising alarms. Professor Dana Lopez of Georgetown says, if Congress keeps failing to govern, presidents will govern by default. Former federal judge Malcolm Rhee adds, we're watching a slow constitutional erosion, not a sudden collapse. But not everyone sees doom. Some argue that a flexible presidency is the only way to keep pace with a polarized legislature and a fast-moving world. Democracy must adapt, says political analyst Kevin Bryant. If Congress won't act, the president must. Two philosophies, both convinced they're saving the system, both pushing it further apart. On Main Street, the debate sounds simpler. A small business owner in Texas says, at least someone made a decision. A federal employee in Maryland replies, decisions are easy when you ignore the rules. Public opinion mirrors the political divide, pragmatic versus principled, immediate relief versus long-term risk. The question isn't whether the shutdown hurt, it's whether the solution rewired American democracy. And while citizens argue online, both political parties quietly adjust their playbooks. Every future president has now learned a lesson. When Congress gridlocks, act first, justify later. History rarely repeats, but it rhymes. The Roman Senate once surrendered its authority to an emperor in the name of efficiency. Centuries later, Britain curbed its monarchy through painful lessons of overreach. And in America, every crisis from Watergate to 9/11 reshaped the balance between liberty and leadership. The pattern is clear. Republics survive not through perfection, but through correction. Each generation must redraw the line between authority and accountability. The real danger isn't that one branch seizes power, it's that the others stop fighting to reclaim it. From Brussels to Beijing, the world watches America's internal storm with fascination. Allies worry about unpredictability, rivals see opportunity. When the world's most powerful democracy struggles to pass a budget, it shakes global confidence. Yet, ironically, it also showcases America's strength, a system messy enough to argue with itself and resilient enough to survive the argument. But survival isn't success. The world is asking, can Washington still lead by example? After every shutdown, trust is the hardest thing to reopen. Federal workers return, but their faith in leadership doesn't. Voters move on, but cynicism lingers. To rebuild that trust, both Congress and the White House must remember something older than any party, the promise of shared power. Democracy was never meant to be efficient, it was meant to be accountable. That's the beauty and the burden of freedom. The shutdown may be over, but its shadow stretches far into America's future. The next budget fight, the next executive action, the next court ruling, each will test how much power the presidency now holds. Maybe history will remember this moment as a wake-up call, when America's leaders realized they were tearing their own house apart. Or maybe it will mark the quiet turning point when one branch of government finally eclipses the others. Either way, democracy doesn't vanish in a single day. It fades, compromise by compromise, silence by silence, until the people demand its return. So what do you think? Did the president do what was necessary, or did he go too far? Is Congress protecting democracy, or just protecting politics? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. If you believe understanding power means protecting freedom, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into US politics, history, and democracy. This is USA Insight AI News, where technology meets truth. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.